One thing I do wish that I knew was that you cannot call people anata, which means you. It's just weird in Japanese. You don't call people you.
Yeah, anata. You could use anata. I think women and like married couples use anata
Yes.
a little bit more.
It's kind of like dear. Like that's the
Yeah.
Japanese version of saying dear. But also, in other situations, it's not dear, but that's the most commonly used way. Like a wife will call her husband anata. It'll be like, anata, ちょっとこれをなんかやってくれるみたいな. I don't know.
It's so funny to me though because there's actually a whole bunch of ways to say you in Japanese.
Yeah.
And like I think a lot of people watch anime will know like kisama, teme, omae.
Yep.
Like omae wa mou shindeiru, you're already dead.
お前はもう死んでいる。ほざきあひで
貴様は猿野郎の貴様はこの俺の手によって死ななければならない。
てめえは俺を怒らせた。
But you can't use any of them.
Don't use those. Don't use those with people unless you want to start a fight.
Actually, so this is funny when I tell people who are trying to learn Japanese, my friends, like, I give like bad advice intentionally because I think it's kind of funny, but I just say like, oh yeah, you actually can't use you at all in Japanese. And they're like, then what the fuck am I supposed to use?
Exactly.
Because there's anata, is probably the lightest.
Yes.
And then kisama is like super like, kisama shine, like die.
It's like, can we swear on this show?
Yeah.
It's like motherfucker kind of thing, right?
Stop the camera. Stop the
You can just bleep it out.
No.
Let people guess what I said.
Kimi.
Kimi, so
Kimi is not bad. Kimi is very endearing.
Wait,
I
no,
think.
but
No, not always.
Okay, maybe this is different for men and women. If I were to call somebody Kimi, I feel like it's a little condescending.
It is condescending. Men will also say it to women, I think.
If like old men, like, hey, Kimi.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Kimi, it's almost because do you know why? It's because there's no other word for you.
Yeah.
Omae is like rude.
Yeah.
Kisama is like you never hear this.
You never.
That's like anime.
Anime.
Teme.
Yep.
That's also
Teme is
like,
if you actually want to start a fight, like if you're a yankee.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
yankee is like a delinquent kid. You'd be like, Kora teme.
Shizuka's like busting out all the scary Shizuka.
I'm very not practiced with it. But yeah, you just don't use words for you very much. And what you should do is call people by their name and son. So instead of being like, you do this, I'd be like, Max-san wa nani nani yo
Yeah.
shite masu yo ne? みたいな. Like that's how they talk. So if you know the person's name, you should say their name. If you don't, then you have to resort to kimi or anata maybe, or you don't say anything at all. You say, 何々をやってらっしゃいますよね? みたいな. No, you.
Well, because you don't need subjects.
You don't
in
need subjects.
Japanese, which also is very confusing for people. It's like, how do I say I? It's like, well, you would say, you could have watashi, ore, boku. Of course, you use
You
it.
imply things in Japanese, which makes it really complicated.
It's so funny when I tell my friends who are learning Japanese, I was like, so you don't use you, and you don't really use I.
You don't really use I.
And so my friends are always like, so how do you know who's doing what? I'm like, exactly.
Sometimes you don't.
Sometimes in Japanese,
Sometimes you actually don't.
people actually will be like, dare da?
誰が?
Yeah, who?
俺? みたいな. And you'll be like, 違う、私 みたいな.
Yeah. So I would say another case that you can use anata, which is a little bit more normal, is if you don't know whose thing it is. So like this coffee. So it's like,
Yeah.
dare no coffee? Like, anata no.
私のです.
Yeah. So,
私です. You could, so that's the specific times where you really need to be specific, but as much as possible, you call people by their name.